I am State Representative Delisha Boyd, and I'm running for Council at Large Division 1. I ran for office initially about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, on a challenge because I'd been very involved with our community as a business leader and community leader, and was challenged because I'm always saying we need better people to run for office. And Congressman Carter said, I don't know anybody more committed to the citizens of New Orleans than you, you should run. Under the context of it being a part-time gig, lies. It's been anything but. It's been, but we have so many things that we need to get right here. I meet with community members everywhere. That's how I get my bill ideas and legislation ideas for Baton Rouge. And I hear the cries for New Orleans. You know, what's wrong with our infrastructure? It's broken. Why do we hit a pothole every other block? Why on the days when it rains, we're concerned about getting home without our cars flooding and getting home and our homes not being flooded because of the drainage system, and our broken City Hall. You know, City Hall needs to be more business friendly. We are running people out of this city because it's so difficult to do business in the Big Easy. It's not very easy living here anymore. Whether it's permitting for building or safety, it's impossible. As a real estate broker, I have clients that have waited nearly a year to get a permit. So we're losing people 3,000 to 5,000 every year. I'm running not for myself. I'm 57. I probably won't be here another 57 years, but for the next generations, like someone fought for me to be sitting here. We need to be more accommodating to our first responders. They can't even live here. Our teachers can't even live here, even with soft second money that's available to help them get into housing. With their salary, with the $55,000 on top, they still can't find a home to live in and purchase in New Orleans. So they migrate, they go to other places where it's easier to live, it's cheaper to live. And so that's my passion for coming home, to do what I did in Baton Rouge. I hit the ground running in Baton Rouge. I didn't have to wait a year to get my feet underneath me. I literally filed 12 bills in my first session, which was 2 months after I was elected. I'm committed to doing better for our city, so that's why I'm running.
What do you think is the #1 issue facing New Orleans, and how can the city council meaningfully address that issue?
I think the #1 issue from constituents would be our infrastructure. My concern is that I know federal government in the last 4 to 5 years has sent $750 million to this area. We have a very strong Orleans delegation. We've sent millions of dollars to New Orleans for streets and drainage, et cetera. I want to find out what's going on with that money. Clearly, it's not being used for being proactive, unless we're getting ready for Taylor Swift or the Super Bowl. We need to figure out an audit on where that money is going and why haven't we used it correctly.
New Orleans residents have a lot of complaints about utilities, from rising bills to frequent outages. How will you approach regulating Entergy and Delta Utilities, the city's new gas company?
Yes, I had a meeting last week with Entergy New Orleans to talk about just that. I think they have a great plan in place. However, I was the legislator that spearheaded the bill for RTA, creating transparency and accountability, and we built a board that is now indicative in representation of the entire city. I also made it mandatory for us to have a community-based advisory board built with community leaders, business leaders, leaders from universities, that we can get great ideas. We need to do that here with our utility company. Get an economist that comes in, get someone that specializes in energy across the city. We need to have people who are in place that understand how these utility companies, because it works in other places. We just need to open it up to have those situations here. So that's my plan with that.
Our water utility is also a source of frequent complaints, particularly when it relates to drainage. Does the city need a stormwater fee to pay for drainage infrastructure? Why or why not?
Yes, we do. And I think that we have seen programs like NORA implement smaller drainage and utility, not utility, spaces for water drainage, and it works. I'm a board member for NORA. I'd like to see that program expanded all over the city, maybe get those two entities together where they can sit and converse on how to make that more effective for something that energy can do. I also met with the new director of Entergy about 2 weeks ago. He has great plans. He has a long history of working with water boards across the United States. I think we have great success also with the smart meters for billing purposes. I have my own stories. I'm literally running based on things that I've experienced. I've gotten the $7,000 water bill and freaked out because I'm divorced, I live alone, and I'm in Baton Rouge 6 months out of the year. So it's totally impossible that I could use $7,000 in water. And where I live, no one can steal my water. Was able to call in, they came out, did some investigating, no leak on my side or the city side, no drainage issues, but they changed it from 7,000 to 700. It's still not logical for that. We need to overhaul that system and maybe get some help from federal government for that, as well as state, on working on the drainage system here.
We may be dealing with a very different fiscal reality in the coming years. There's no longer an influx of American Rescue Plan Act dollars. Federal funding for certain public health, climate resiliency, and disaster recovery projects is not guaranteed. Still, the City Council will steward a budget of well over $1 billion. How should the Council decide what to prioritize in that budget?
Once again, I mentioned building a board of people who understand what we need. An economist on this advisory board. We need heads of businesses and heads of universities to also give input. We can't expect the council people to know the decisions for every single thing on what might happen in the future. We know that there will be change. As a state legislator, we see it, we hear it, we get letters every day from the governor's office on the changes that'll happen. So now is the time to start planning, being proactive for that, and putting people in place to help us get through those challenges. It is essential moving forward that the council and the mayor's office be able to work together for what we are facing with the government. To also put people in place who have the answers to it. You don't have to have them all, but you have to be strong enough and put ego aside to get the people in who can help you with it.
A huge part of the council agenda every meeting is land use and zoning. How will you approach those decisions? What considerations do you think should be prioritized? How should affordability factor into these decisions?
Wow, that's a loaded one, and I'm going to give you a long answer, so indulge me here. One, we do need to get people who are trained in that division in City Hall, because you can go in City Hall and get 6 different answers from 6 different people about the same question. Affordability is going to be difficult right now. It really is, because lumber's up 200%. Insurances have quadrupled over the last few years, whether it's homeowners or flood insurance. With the tariffs, if you're renovating a property under the guise of maybe even trying to make it affordable, windows are on back order. Some of the things that you need to renovate properties are on back order. It's hard for a developer or a builder to build affordable right now. And because of that, we need to focus on also raising people's salaries to meet where we are with affordability. It's hard to live here right now because everything is going up, but the salaries are going lower or staying the same. So I'm going to fight for teachers to get paid a livable wage where they can afford to be in this city. I'm going to fight for our first responders to make livable wages so they can afford to live here and not be forced out of our city. We have watched other cities supplement teacher pay raises from what the state won't do. So you have places like St. Tammany Parish and some places in LaPlace that pay more money because they have found a way to complement what the teachers are being paid. We know that we're getting ready to have an influx possibly of National Guard. I wish we would use that money to pay our own NOPD officers so they can live in this city, pay our own NOPD officers so that it could help with recruitment. It's hard to tell you how we do affordable because I have nonprofit organizations that can't make it work here in Orleans Parish. So we're building in other parishes. The money that we're losing from that is also something that should be looked at, not just from my standpoint, but I'm sure an economist will tell you that. We have a subdivision right off of Oak Harbor and Slidell with 5 NOPD officers that live in that subdivision. 5. So they're earning money in Orleans Parish. They bought houses in St. Tammany Parish, which means they're paying property taxes. They're eating out with their families. Their children are going to school, and all of that's taking away from New Orleans affordability. New Orleans making it economic growth and development in this city. If our dollars that are being earned here are going to other parishes, we're losing.
What do you think is something that an average voter might misunderstand about the city council, or what do you wish voters knew about the job?
I think some of the current city council members don't realize that we are legislators. We create new policy, we create new laws for the city, which means sometimes you got to step outside the box and try something that somebody else has not tried, like supplementing our teacher pay raises. Somebody did it 30 years ago and actually got it passed through the council, and the court shot it down, but no one has tried since then. Well, when you're a policymaker, you don't give up. When you're fighting for the citizens of New Orleans, you can't give up. I've run bills in Baton Rouge, and although in those 3 years I've passed 25 bills signed into law, I've co-authored another 60, there's some things that I have not been able to get done. That don't mean I stopped. So fighting for LGBTQ to have a voice and be protected in the workplace fails every year in committee. That don't mean I stopped bringing it. Fighting for women's reproductive rights failed every session in committee, never even getting to the floor. That does not mean I stopped. So when we need people who are willing to take bold, radical changes and understanding that, yes, as council at large, I'm going to be responsible for managing the budget, get great people in place to do that. I'm going to be responsible for regulating utilities, get great people in place to help us do that. Public safety is going to be huge, but also being bold enough to try to write some different policies to help the citizens of New Orleans be able to live in New Orleans.
What is something surprising that most voters wouldn't know about you?
Oh, let's see. I am the product of a young mother. My mom was 15. My sperm donor was 28. My mother was deceased before she was 30. But the community, my grandmother did an awesome job, but the community helped me get through probably was some of the most challenging times of my life. So I think people would be surprised that, I didn't start where I am right now. I had to grow to where I am right now, but all from community members, people who did not know me, little angels that God put in my life along the way. My whole life, our kids are lacking that today. People who took a look at me and said, it doesn't matter how you got here. We're gonna help you get through it. Literally every phase of my life. So I think people will be shocked to know that, because what they see is the strong warrior who wants to fight all the time. So yeah, I started out, you don't have to come from a political family. I was determined to make sure that I had a voice in my community, and I did that.
Can you tell me a little bit about your grandmother?
Oh gosh, why? Why would you do that to me, Katie? She was great. She was great. I am who I am because of her, for sure. I have a younger brother who lives in Texas, who refers to me as his sister mama, because for years I was his mother. And my grandmother, when my mom died, took us and she said, go be a kid. Go be a kid. I got him. You go be a kid. And so I was in school when my mom died at Samuel James Green. It was a middle school. And, challenged. And one day I came home from school and she had the little ugly black and white saddle Oxford shoes and that Catholic girl skirt and white shirt. She was like, "You're not going back." I was thinking, yeah, no, I'm going back. I'm gonna just go get put out the Catholic school. I'm going back. But it's probably one of the best things that she did for me. It's some of my first memories of reminding myself who my grandmother was for me and paying attention to those who wanted to pour into my life, including the teacher at Green that called my grandmother. My mom died in August, and we started school right after Labor Day, back in the 70s, 80s. That's how it was done. And it was maybe the first 2 weeks of school, and he said, you got to get her out of here too. So he was my first memory of an angel that I never thanked for calling her, because I probably was just ticked off most of my childhood, and then my intention was to get put out of the school. And Audrey Woods, who is alive today, the principal, wasn't happening. Was not going to happen. Her and my grandmother had a conversation, and she took on the role of being a surrogate mother, so to speak, and would bring me home to her house on the weekends to hang out with her kids, and that was the beginning. So my grandmother did everything she could to give me back my childhood.
So why should you be elected over fellow Democrat and state legislator Matthew Willard?
I think what you get with me is the experience. Someone who is already proven to not have to get in, and this is not a dig at anybody, but I went in immediately and became a leader. Matthew Willard has reached out to me for leadership stuff. I have been that leader who, when he was frustrated, went out and talked to him in the hall to bring him back in. That comes with age and experience. I don't panic in the face of a crisis. I look at the situation and assess it and reassess and then move forward with the best decision for whoever it is in that leadership role. That comes from over 30 years of business experience. Life experiences that I've had, and showing that I know how to get in and get the work done. Within 5 months, my colleagues awarded me with the Rising Star. I was there 2.5 years after all the other freshmen, but in 5 months, they gave me that award. Within 12 months, before my second session, I was already elected into leadership. I'm a leader, and I'm gonna have the ability to bring together the council with the mayor. Let the mayor do what they're supposed to do. And we're going to get in rooms and we're going to disagree on things. I have the ability to make people understand we have to do what's best for the people. That's what we were elected to do. That demonstrates my ability to work across the lines with the bills I've gotten passed in a supermajority Republican House and Senate. Some bills that other people were told me that were challenging bills. I think that comes with the ability to be able to lead and have conversations based on just life experiences to get things done. So that'll be it.
You've recently come under fire for the fact that your campaign and a political group supporting your campaign have paid more than $39,000 to a real estate company you own with your daughter, potentially in violations of state ethics laws. I'm curious, what is your response to those allegations?
So we'll start where we know what that's all about. We're in a crunch time these last 2 weeks. I'm leading in the polls, and so now you sling craziness by people who understand that I have not filled out a campaign finance report. We hire people to do that. I have not written a check to anyone. We hire people to do that. Now we have a marketing, that company, DKR, did all the marketing for our Airbnbs. We know how to market. My business went from starting, and within a year, everybody in this city knew who we were because we do great marketing. I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm not sure what ethically may have been done, so I hired the best. I hired Grace Axton. He's going to tell me if we've done anything wrong and correct it if we have. I've hired a PR person. But Delisha Boyd herself I can't funnel money anywhere. I don't write a check myself. I don't do a campaign finance report. I think it's some oversight from my accountant. But every single step of the way on that campaign account, we ask, because I'm new. I was new at the time to it. My first go out in that special election. And then my second term, I was elected without opposition. So this is really like our first getting feet wet thing. Nonetheless, there's nothing that my daughter or I have done without asking, can we do this first? That's the reality of it. So to misrepresent what's happened, to make it appear as though that I've done something wrong when I know the people who are doing it understand that we spend money and get reimbursed for it. We all do it. Every single person. It's not a dollar that's come to myself or to my daughter. We spend the money using our own, because we don't have credit cards for these accounts either. So we pay it with a credit card and then get reimbursed for it. We ask what we can do. That's just the reality of it. So to have my character and integrity attacked is insulting on so many levels, because before Delisha Boyd became an elected official, look at my social media. This is what we did, period. Pour into this community, because too much is given, much is required. So I am that person. We adopt 20 or 30 families every Christmas, in addition to the turkey giveaways. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, we adopt families who don't have in this city, in addition to the turkey giveaways. Back to school giveaways for teachers and for students for the last almost 20 years. That's what I've done in this community before I was ever elected. So for me, it's insulting in the name of trying to win a race that somebody would paint this picture of me like I'm lacking some type of integrity or commitment, or it's just ridiculous when I know you know better.